Hi everyone, I'm Lawrence Todd at Design 911 and today I'm going to be giving you a tech talk on manifold studs and bolts, specifically exhaust manifold studs and bolts, or if you have an earlier 911, heat exchanger manifold studs. If you've recently looked underneath the rear end of your 911 at the exhaust manifold, you may have noticed that the fastenings and fixings that are holding the manifold on are in a lot worse condition than the other fixings in your engine bay. This is because exhaust manifold studs or bolts, depending on what you have a tendency to rust much faster than other fastenings and fixings. Why is this? Well, it's to do with the fact that when warm, moist air cools, it condensates on colder materials. Now, once you've been driving your 911, the exhaust is red hot and it warms up the air around it. This air cools much slower than your exhaust. Subsequently, when the warm air touches the cooler exhaust studs, it forms condensation on these studs, which are made from steel, they're not protected, and it causes them to rust. These rusty fastenings have a tendency to snap when trying to undo them. In the case of having a heat exchanger, you've got 6 studs on each side. That could be 12 snap studs. In the case of this exhaust manifold, there are 9 bolts each side. That could be 18 snap bolts. This could really ruin your day if you're taking your exhaust manifold or heat exchanger off, or really damage your wallet if you've got someone doing it for you. Extracting snap studs is not easy, let alone when you're in the confined space of a Porsche engine bay. Fortunately, if you do suffer from snapping a stud next time you're taking off your heat exchanger or your exhaust manifold, there are tools available to help you to try and ease the process of extracting these studs. This Stomski Racing tool has been designed specifically to help you remove exhaust manifold studs or heat exchanger studs. The fact that this tool exists highlights the prevalence of this problem happening. If it didn't happen often, this thing wouldn't exist. You can mount this to your heads to line up with the exhaust manifold stud pattern, and then use the tool supplied to accurately drill out any snap studs and then re-tap the holes. Once you've been through the palaver of trying to remove snap studs and you've got your exhaust manifold off or your heat exchanger off, this is a perfect opportunity to upgrade your studs or your bolts so that never happens again. How do you do that? Design 911 sell heat exchanger studs or exhaust manifold bolts. These bolts are made from titanium, so unlike steel, they do not rust. No matter how warm the air gets in your engine bay, when it condensates on these studs or these bolts, it's not going to form rust. In addition to these studs and those bolts, Roller also make these titanium barrel nuts, which replace the barrel nuts which were originally supplied with your earlier 911. They also make locking nuts, also made in titanium. Again, these are rust resistant. These would be an almost like-for-like replacement, other than the fact that they're made from titanium and they're locking nuts to the conventional nut Porsche also used to use on these heat exchanger manifolds. If you have an earlier 911 before the 996 that uses heat exchanger, similar to the one I have here, over the years, Porsche used varying different combination of both stud lengths, these 2 heat exchanger manifold studs, and they also use different combinations of both nuts. They use barrel nuts and regular nuts. Don't worry. Here at Design 911, we have kits that cater for all types, all models of 911. The kits will include the necessary stud lengths, all in titanium, and they will also include replacement, either barrels or nuts, also in titanium. Similarly, if you have a more modern 911, which uses a traditional exhaust manifold, like this one here, you can replace your original manufacturer's equipment, either bolts with a traditional kind of hex head or bolts with a more recent kind of modern Torx head. You can replace these fixings with an equivalent roller titanium bolt. In addition to these roller bolts that you have for these more modern Porsches that have an exhaust manifold like this one, instead of using a bolt system, you can use a stud system, which will replicate the stud system used on an earlier Porsche. If you do want to convert to a stud system instead of a bolt system, something to bear in mind is that this stud system uses locking nuts. These are one-use nuts, so every time that you remove your exhaust manifold, you will have to replace these. But it is possible to buy these nuts individually from Design 911. So if you'd like to make an investment in your 911 and save yourself the painful, timely and costly error of snapping either exhaust manifold studs or heat exchanger manifold studs, then you want to get your hands on some of these roller titanium either studs or bolts. If you do want to do that, you can head to design911.com. In the header, enter your car model and type. Then go to the left-hand side navigation menu, select exhausts, and then you'll be presented with a grid page full of different exhaust categories. Here you'll find one of the boxes that says exhausts, nuts, studs and bolts. Select that one, and again you'll be presented with another grid of all the different variations of the nuts, studs and bolts that are suitable for your vehicle. You'll be able to buy studs individually, you'll be able to buy lock nuts or barrel nuts individually, you'll be able to buy the bolts individually, or you'll be able to buy kits that are suitable for your car, both studs and nut kits and complete stud, nut and gasket kits, so that you have everything you need to do the job properly. If you have any questions, whether you can't find the necessary kit for your car, or you're not sure which kit you should be using, or whether you need to change your gaskets or not, on the Design 911 website, you'll be able to find an email address or telephone number to contact Design 911 and the team will be welcome to help. Now, at the start of this video, I said that for those of you that hung around, there'd be something special for you at the end of this video. If you're interested in making this upgrade to your Porsche, in the description, there's a discount code for all of these products that we've discussed in this video.